First contact. The crystalline moons of Kepler-9 were never meant to be home to humans, but science had a way of pushing boundaries. 13-year-old Zara Patel stood at the observation deck of Research Station Epsilon, pressing her hand against the reinforced glass as she watched sheets of aurora dance across the purple sky. The moon's crystal formations caught the light, splitting it into rainbow fragments that painted the landscape in perpetual twilight. "Zara, dinner in 10 minutes." Her mother's voice echoed through the station's comm system. "Coming," she called back, but her eyes remained fixed on the crystal forest beyond the station's boundaries. Something had changed out there. A new configuration in the ever-shifting crystalline growths that dotted the landscape. After 3 years on this remote research station, Zara had memorized every formation visible from the observation deck. The station rules were clear: no unauthorized expeditions outside the safety perimeter. But rules, Zara had learned, were often made by people who didn't understand the importance of discovery. She grabbed her emergency pack, standard issue for all station residents, and slipped on her atmosuit with practiced ease. Station. Log temporary departure for specimen collection. Authorization Zara Patel Jr. Researcher. She spoke clearly into her suit's comm unit. The computer would flag it, but she'd be back before anyone noticed. Besides, technically she wasn't lying. She was going to collect specimens, just not the kind her parents usually studied. The airlock cycled with a soft hiss, and Zara stepped onto the crystalline surface. Her boots crunched against the ground, each step releasing tiny sparks of bioluminescence. The crystal forest loomed ahead, its spires reaching hundreds of meters into the sky, their surfaces reflecting and refracting the aurora light in mesmerizing patterns. As she approached the changed formation, her suit's sensors began picking up unusual energy readings. The crystals here weren't just different in arrangement. They were resonating at frequencies she'd never seen before. Zara followed the reading's source, climbing carefully over smaller crystal outcroppings until she reached a hidden ravine. The sight that greeted her stole her breath away. Curled among the crystals was a creature that defied explanation. It was like a dragon from Earth's mythology, but its body appeared to be formed from living crystal. Its wings were translucent sheets that shimmered with internal light, and its long neck was adorned with crystalline scales that pulsed with energy. But something was wrong. The creature's light was flickering erratically, and dark cracks spread across its surface like veins of shadow. It was injured, and badly. The dragon's eyes opened as Zara approached. They were deep pools of swirling purple energy that fixed upon her with unmistakable intelligence. Fear gripped her for a moment, but something else pushed through stronger. Compassion. This wasn't just some mindless alien creature. She could feel its pain radiating through the crystal-charged atmosphere. "It's okay," she whispered, though she knew the sound wouldn't carry through her suit. "I want to help." The dragon's head lifted slightly, and suddenly Zara felt a presence brush against her mind. Featherlight, but unmistakable. Images flashed through her thoughts. Hunters with strange weapons that shattered crystal, a desperate flight through space, a crash landing that left deep wounds in both body and spirit. Zara reached out slowly, her gloved hand hovering near the dragon's crystalline scales. The creature didn't pull away. Instead, it pushed its snout gently against her palm, and a surge of energy coursed through her suit's systems. Her heads-up display flickered wildly before stabilizing with new information. Readings she'd never seen before, showing the complex energy patterns flowing through the dragon's crystalline body. She could see the damage now, understood it in a way that defied explanation. The crystal dragon's natural energy flow was disrupted, its internal lattice structure fractured by the impact of its crash landing. But more than that, she could see how to help. The crystal fragments in her specimen collection kit might be useful. If she could align them correctly with the dragon's damaged sections, they might help channel and restore its natural energy flow. It was crazy, impossible really, but Zara knew with absolute certainty that it would work. As she began her careful work, the aurora above intensified, casting the ravine in waves of color. The dragon remained still, watching her with those impossibly deep eyes as she placed each crystal fragment with precise care. Each piece she added caused ripples of light to pulse through the creature's body, and gradually, the dark cracks began to fade. Time lost meaning as Zara worked, guided by instincts she didn't understand and knowledge that seemed to flow directly from the dragon itself. She was so focused that she almost missed her suit's warning. Station sensors were scanning the area. They'd noticed her prolonged absence. The dragon sensed her anxiety and lifted its head, now glowing with renewed strength. It sent her another mental image. Herself, riding on its back, soaring through the crystal forest. An invitation. Zara hesitated for only a moment before making her decision. Her parents would understand. They had to. This was the discovery of a lifetime. And more importantly, this magnificent creature needed her help. She reached out to the dragon once more. And this time, when their energies connected, she felt something new. Hope. The crystal dragon rose to its full height, its wings spreading wide and catching the aurora light like stained glass. As Zara climbed carefully onto its back, she knew her life would never be the same. The crystal forest beckoned, full of secrets waiting to be discovered. And somewhere out there, more of these incredible creatures needed their help. The dragon launched into the purple sky, and Zara's adventure truly began. Trust and healing. High above the crystal forest, Zara clung to the dragon's crystalline scales as they soared through ribbons of aurora light. The creature's body hummed with energy beneath her, each wing beat sending ripples of bioluminescence across its surface. Her suit's sensors were overwhelmed by the readings, but she barely noticed. She was too captivated by the view below. From this height, the crystal formations created patterns she'd never noticed before. They weren't random growths as the research teams had always assumed. They were deliberate, a vast network of energy conduits that pulsed with life. The dragon was showing her secrets that had eluded the station's scientists for years. A sharp warning chirp from her suit interrupted her wonder. Oxygen reserves at 60%. The computer announced. Return to station recommended. The dragon caught her concern through their newfound connection and banked smoothly toward a massive crystal spire. As they descended, Zara noticed an opening in its side, a cave that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light. The dragon landed gracefully on a crystalline ledge, and Zara understood. This was its sanctuary. Inside, the cave walls pulsed with soft blue light, and the air. Zara checked her readings twice to be sure. The cave contained a breathable atmosphere. Carefully, she unsealed her helmet, taking a tentative breath. The air was crisp and clean, with a slight metallic tang that made her skin tingle. "This is incredible," she whispered, her voice echoing strangely in the crystal chamber. The dragon lowered its head to her level, and those deep purple eyes met hers. Another mental connection formed, stronger now without the suit between them. Images and sensations flooded her mind. Vast crystal cities drifting through space, populated by creatures of living crystal. The dragon species, they called themselves the Lumini, were not just intelligent, they were ancient. They had crossed galaxies, seeding crystal forests on countless worlds, creating networks of energy that connected the cosmos itself. But then came darker images, ships of black metal, hunters who coveted the Lumini's crystal essence. They had developed weapons that could shatter a Lumini's body, harvesting their core crystals for power sources. The dragon, whose name felt like a chime of crystal bells in Zara's mind, which she understood as resonance, was a guardian tasked with protecting this crystal forest and its hidden purpose. The research station, Zara realized aloud. We had no idea we were studying part of your network. Resonance acknowledged this with a gentle pulse of light. The human's presence was unexpected but not unwelcome. Until now, they had studied the crystals without causing harm. But the hunters had tracked resonance to this moon. More would come, putting both the crystal forest and the research station in danger. As this knowledge settled in Zora's mind, her suit's calm crackled to life. Zara Patel. Her father's voice was tight with worry. Return to station immediately. We're detecting unusual energy signatures in your vicinity. She looked at Resonance, torn between duty to her family and the urgent need to help. The dragon sent her a gentle reassurance. There was still time, but they would need help. More importantly, they would need trust. Dad, she replied, taking a deep breath. I'm safe, but I need you and Mom to listen. I found something. Someone. And we need to prepare. Over the next hour, Zara explained everything to her parents through the comm. She could hear their scientist minds struggling with the implications, but years of research into the crystal forests had prepared them for the possibility of intelligent design. When she finally convinced them to come see for themselves, she felt Resonance's approval ripple through the cave. Her parents arrived in their research rover, their expressions shifting from concern to awe as they entered the crystal cave. Dr. Patel, her mother, immediately began taking readings, while her father stood speechless before Resonance's magnificent form. The energy patterns, her mother whispered, they're identical to the forest network, but infinitely more complex. This is revolutionary. It's more than that, Zora said, placing her hand on Resonance's crystalline scales. The forest isn't just a natural phenomenon. It's their technology, their history, their home. And it's in danger. As if in response to her words, the cave's crystals pulsed with warning light. Resonance's head snapped up, eyes fixed on the purple sky visible through the cave entrance. Through their connection, Zara felt what the dragon had sensed. Dark ships entering the moon's atmosphere. The hunters had arrived. Her father checked the rover's long-range scanners, his face grim. Multiple unidentified vessels breaching our security perimeter. They're not responding to hails. Resonance shared another vision with Zora. Crystal caverns deep beneath the forest. A sanctuary where they could protect both the station's inhabitants and the forest's secrets. But reaching it would mean traversing dangerous territory, and they would need to move quickly. Mom, Dad, Zora said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I know this is crazy, but we need to evacuate the station. Now. Resonance can guide us to safety, but we have to trust them. Her parents exchanged looks, the same ones they shared when evaluating a particularly challenging research proposal. Finally, her mother nodded. I'll contact the station. But Zora, you need to help us understand what we're dealing with. As her mother coordinated with the station crew, Zara and Resonance shared everything they knew about the hunters. Each piece of information was another crystal in a larger pattern, one that would determine their survival. The cave trembled as distant explosions echoed through the crystal forest. Their time was running out. But as Zara looked around at her parents, at Resonance, at the pulsing crystal walls that held so many secrets, she felt something stronger than fear, determination. They had science, they had knowledge, and most importantly, they had trust. The hunters would learn that some bonds, like the one between a girl and a crystal dragon, couldn't be shattered. The hunter's shadow. The evacuation of Research Station Epsilon happened faster than anyone expected. Years of emergency drills had prepared the crew for quick departures, but this was different. They weren't just running from danger, they were running towards something extraordinary. Zara watched from atop Resonance as the station's 23 crew members loaded essential equipment into the rovers. The crystal cave system pulsed with increased energy as more Lumini arrived, smaller crystal entities that Resonance had called to help. They moved through the crystal formations like living light, creating paths and bridges of solid crystal to help the humans traverse the dangerous terrain. Through her connection with Resonance, Zara felt the hunters drawing closer. Their ships carried devices that disrupted the crystal network's natural frequencies, creating painful distortions that made the Lumini recoil. But the hunters didn't understand the true nature of what they pursued. They saw the crystals as mere power sources, not the living, thinking beings they truly were. Last rover loaded, her father announced over the comm. Zara, we're ready to move. She pressed her hand against Resonance's scales, feeling the dragon's acknowledgement. Together, they had mapped a route through the crystal forest to the sanctuary deep below, a place where the hunters' disruption devices couldn't reach. The caravan began moving just as the first hunter ship appeared over the crystal spires. It was a black vessel shaped like a predatory bird, its hull adorned with captured crystal shards that glowed with imprisoned energy. Zara felt Resonance's grief at the sight. Those crystals had once been Lumini. "They're scanning for energy signatures," her mother's voice crackled through the comm. "The crystal caves are masking our readings, but we need to move faster." Resonance launched into the air, leading the convoy through tunnels of living crystal that formed and dissolved as they passed. The other Lumini danced around them, their bodies creating networks of light that guided the rovers through the safest paths. But the hunters were prepared. Dark pods dropped from their ships, cracking open to reveal mechanical creatures that skittered through the crystal forest on multiple legs. Their bodies were built from the same black metal as the ships, with crystal shards embedded in their joints that let them navigate the energy fields. "Hunter seekers," Zara whispered, the knowledge coming from her connection with Resonance. These machines were designed to track and capture Lumini, draining their energy until they could be harvested. One of the rovers swerved as a hunter seeker leaped at it, mechanical legs scraping against the reinforced hull. Without hesitation, Resonance dove toward it, emitting a pulse of energy that caused the machine to stumble. Zara understood instantly. The crystal shards in the hunter-seekers could be turned against them. "Everyone, listen," she broadcast to the convoy. "The hunter-seekers are powered by captured crystals. If we can disrupt their energy patterns, we can shut them down." Her mother's scientific mind caught on immediately. "The resonance frequencies we've been studying, they're not just communication. They're defense mechanisms." The Lumini around them pulsed with approval. More of them emerged from the crystal formations, coordinating their energy pulses to create waves that knocked the hunter-seekers off balance. The machine's crystal components began to flicker erratically as their stolen power turned against them. But the hunters above weren't giving up. Their ships began firing energy weapons that shattered crystal spires, sending cascades of fragments raining down. Each destruction sent ripples of pain through the crystal network. Zora could feel it through her connection with Resonance, like watching parts of a vast, beautiful tapestry being burned away. They were halfway to the sanctuary when one of the rover's engines failed, damaged by crystal shrapnel. Zara felt Resonance's decision before the dragon acted. They had to split up. The hunters couldn't be allowed to find the sanctuary's entrance. "Mom, Dad," Zora called through the comm. "Take everyone east through the crystal maze. We'll draw them off to the west." "Absolutely not," her father protested. "It's too dangerous." "Trust me," Zara insisted, feeling Resonance's confidence flowing through their bond. "The Lumini will protect you. We'll find another way in." Before her parents could argue further, Resonance banked sharply west, letting out a crystal-shattering roar that drew every hunter ship's attention. Other Lumini followed them, creating a spectacular light show that no hunter could resist pursuing. They raced through the crystal forest, diving between spires and through natural arches. The hunters closed behind. But Resonance wasn't just fleeing. The dragon was leading the hunters into a trap. Zara could feel the plan forming in the crystal network. They were heading for the Singing Cliffs, where the crystal formations created natural resonance chambers. The hunters, focused only on their pursuit, didn't notice how the crystal formations around them were changing, growing more densely packed, their frequencies aligning into complex harmonies. When they reached the cliffs, Resonance landed on a crystal outcropping, turning to face their pursuers. Zara stood on the crystal ledge beside her friend, no longer afraid. The hunters' ships surrounded them, weapons charged, but they had already lost. They just didn't know it yet. "You want to see the true power of the crystals," Zara shouted, though she knew they couldn't hear her. "Let us show you." Resonance reared up, wings spread wide, and released a pure note that echoed through the crystal chambers. Every Luminian range added their voice to the harmony, and the entire cliff face began to vibrate. The stolen crystals in the hunters' ships and machines resonated in response, shattering their bonds and returning to their true nature. The hunters' weapons went dark. Their ships, suddenly without power, had to retreat or risk falling from the sky. The hunter-seekers collapsed, their crystal components rejoining the Lumini network in flashes of light. As the last hunter ship disappeared into the purple sky, Zara felt Resonance's satisfaction. They had won this battle not through violence, but through understanding, by working with the true nature of the crystal network rather than trying to control it. But both girl and dragon knew this wasn't the end. The hunters would return with new weapons, new strategies. They needed to prepare, and for that, they needed to reach the sanctuary where the humans and Lumini could combine their knowledge. Resonance lowered its head, and Zara climbed back onto the dragon's crystalline back. Above them, the aurora painted the sky in shifting colors, and below, the crystal forest pulsed with renewed energy. They had a long journey ahead, but they would make it together. As they soared toward the sanctuary, Zara smiled. Sometimes the bravest thing wasn't fighting. It was showing others a better way. Crystal Song. Deep beneath the crystal forest, the sanctuary opened before them like a dream made solid. Zara stood with her parents and the rest of the station crew, their lights reflecting off walls that seemed to capture entire galaxies in their faceted surfaces. The cavern stretched so high that its ceiling was lost in darkness, and crystal formations spiraled up like the inside of a massive nautilus shell. But it was more than just beautiful. It was alive. Through her connection with Resonance, Zora could feel the pulse of ancient knowledge flowing through every crystal. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was a library, a laboratory, and a living memory of the Lumini civilization. It's a data storage system, her mother breathed, her scientific instruments flickering as they tried to process the complexity around them. Each crystal formation is holding patterns, information, but in a way we've never seen before. Resonance moved to the center of the cavern where a pool of liquid crystal cast rippling lights across the walls. The dragon touched its snout to the surface, and suddenly the air filled with three-dimensional images, star maps, molecular structures, and flowing equations that made Zora's head spin. "They're showing us everything," her father said, his voice filled with wonder. "Their entire history, their science, their understanding of the universe." But Zora noticed something else through her connection with Resonance, and urgency beneath the beauty. "They're not just showing us," she said. "They're asking for help. The hunters, they're not just destroying individual Lumini. They're unraveling the entire network." The images shifted to show the crystal forest spread across countless worlds, connected by threads of energy that spanned the gaps between stars. But there were dark spots now, places where the hunters had harvested too many crystals, creating holes in the vast living network that the Lumini had spent millennia building. "The network maintains something," Zora continued, the knowledge flowing from Resonance into her mind. "A balance. Without it, she struggled to put the concept into words. It's like an immune system for space itself. The crystals filter out energies that could harm developing worlds, guide the flow of life between stars." One of the station's physicists, Dr. Nosu, stepped forward, her eyes wide. "The background radiation patterns we've been studying, they're not random. The crystal forests are processing them, like a natural filter." The liquid crystal pool swirled with confirmation, showing how the network protected countless worlds from cosmic radiation, steered solar winds, and maintained delicate balances that allowed life to flourish. The hunters, in their greed for crystal energy, were unknowingly damaging a system that had protected the galaxy for millions of years. "We can help," Zora's mother said suddenly, pulling up her own research data. "The resonance patterns we've mapped, the way the crystals respond to different frequencies, we might be able to strengthen the remaining networks, help them compensate for the damaged sections." The Lumini pulsed with approval, and more of them emerged from the crystal walls. Not just dragons like Resonance, but countless forms, each shaped by their role in maintaining the network. They gathered around the humans, sharing knowledge, showing them how their scientific instruments could be modified to work with, rather than merely observe the crystal energies. Zara watched as the station's crew spread out through the sanctuary, their experience studying the crystal forests taking on new meaning as they worked alongside the Lumini. Her mother's team began mapping the damage to the network, while her father's group worked on ways to shield the crystals from the hunters harvesting weapons. But something was still missing. Zara could feel it through her connection with resonance, a piece of the puzzle they hadn't yet solved. She approached the liquid crystal pool, remembering how the Lumini had used harmonics against the hunters at the Singing Cliffs. "The crystals respond to music," she said slowly, "to harmony. Not just sound, but the harmony of frequencies, of light, of intention." She turned to the gathered humans and Lumini. "We're thinking about this as a problem of science or energy, but it's also about connection. The hunters break the harmony, but maybe we can restore it." Resonance moved beside her, and together they touched the liquid crystal. Their combined consciousness flowed into the network, and Zara began to understand. The Lumini didn't just communicate through the crystals, they sang through them, their very existence a part of a greater symphony that helped hold reality together. And humans, with their music, their mathematics, their ability to find patterns in chaos and beauty in order, might be able to add their own voice to that song. The sanctuary's crystals began to pulse in rhythm with Zora's heartbeat, then with the breathing of every human in the room. The Lumini added their own harmonies, and slowly, a new kind of music began to fill the space, not just sound, but light and energy and pure information, all flowing together in perfect resonance. Through this harmony, Zara saw the solution. The hunters couldn't be fought with weapons. They had to be shown the true nature of what they were destroying. They had to be made to hear the song. As the humans and Lumini worked together in the sanctuary, combining their knowledge and strengths, Zara and Resonance began to plan. The hunters would return, but this time they would be ready. Not with weapons or shields, but with a symphony powerful enough to change hearts and minds. The crystal forest above thrummed with renewed energy as the sanctuary's harmonies reached up through the network. The aurora in the purple sky danced in time with the crystal song, and for the first time since the hunters appeared, hope began to grow like new crystal formations reaching toward the stars. The final battle wouldn't be fought with weapons at all. It would be won with understanding, with harmony, and with a song that could remind the hunters of their own connection to the cosmic dance they were trying to control. Zara smiled as she felt the music building around them. The hunters thought they were chasing power, but soon they would discover that true power lay in becoming part of something greater than themselves. Wings of freedom. The hunters returned at dawn, their ships blackening the purple sky like an eclipse. But this time, they found no prey fleeing before them. Only silence in the crystal forest, a stillness that should have warned them something had changed. From the sanctuary below, Zara watched through the crystal network's countless facets as the hunter fleet descended. Their ships were larger now, equipped with new weapons designed to shatter crystal at its resonant frequency. They thought they had learned from their last defeat. They hadn't learned enough. "Everyone ready?" she asked, looking around the sanctuary. The station's crew had transformed the space into a hybrid of human science and Lumini crystal technology. Instruments merged with living crystal, creating interfaces that could channel and amplify the network's natural harmonies. Resonance stood beside her, the dragon's crystalline form glowing with accumulated power. Through their connection, Zara felt the presence of thousands of Lumini spread throughout the forest above, all waiting for the signal. Her parents worked at their modified equipment, ensuring every frequency was perfectly tuned. "The hunters are beginning their scan," Dr. Nwosu reported, watching the energy readings. "They're being more thorough this time. They'll find the sanctuary entrance soon." Zara nodded, placing her hand on a crystal formation that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "Then let's not make them search. Let's show them exactly what they've been looking for." She closed her eyes, and through her connection with Resonance, sent a surge of energy through the network. Crystal spires across the forest lit up in sequence, creating a spiral pattern that led directly to the sanctuary. It was an invitation the hunters couldn't resist. Their ships followed the light show, weapons charged, expecting a trap but too hungry for crystal energy to turn back. As they approached the sanctuary's hidden entrance, the crystal formations parted like curtains, revealing the massive cavern within. The hunters hesitated at the threshold of something they'd never seen before: humans and Lumini working together, surrounded by more crystal energy than they'd ever hoped to harvest. Their ships hovered, weapons trained on the gathered crowd below. A voice boomed from the lead ship: "Surrender the crystal beings, and you will be spared. Resist, and we will take them by force." Zara stepped forward, resonance at her side. Her voice, when she spoke, was amplified by the crystal chamber itself. "You've spent so long taking, you've forgotten how to receive. Let us show you what you've been destroying." She nodded to her parents, and they activated their modified instruments. The sanctuary's crystals began to sing. It started as a single pure note, but quickly grew into something more. Each crystal added its voice to the harmony, each Lumini contributed its energy, and each human added their understanding of music and mathematics to the growing symphony. The sound was beyond music. It was the voice of the universe itself, speaking through its crystal heart. The hunters' weapons flickered as the captured crystals in their ships responded to the song, resonating with their lost kin. Images formed in the air: the birth of stars, the dance of galaxies, the delicate balance of energies that allowed life to flourish across the cosmos. The crystal network's true purpose revealed itself in waves of light and sound and pure understanding. Through it all, Zara and Resonance acted as conductors, their combined consciousness guiding the symphony of revelation. The hunters saw their own worlds, protected by the very crystal forests they had been destroying. They saw the holes they had torn in the network, and the cascading effects that would eventually reach their own homes. Some of the hunter ships tried to fire their weapons, but the crystals they had stolen refused to harm their own kind any longer. One by one, the captured shards broke free, returning to the network in streams of light that added new voices to the cosmic song. The lead hunter ship landed, its captain emerging with weapons lowered. He was human, Zora realized with surprise, not so different from her own parents. His face showed the dawning horror of someone who finally understood the magnitude of what he had nearly destroyed. "We didn't know," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "All this time, we thought we were harvesting power sources. We never realized that you were hunting pieces of the universe's immune system." Zara finished for him. "That the crystals were alive. That they were protecting you." More hunter ships landed, their crews emerging to witness the harmony they had been fighting against. The sanctuary's song softened, becoming an invitation rather than a revelation. Through the crystal network, the Lumini offered something the hunters had never expected: forgiveness and a chance to heal what had been broken. "Your technology, your understanding of crystal energies, it could help us repair the network," Zora's mother said, approaching the hunters. "You could be part of the solution instead of the destruction." The hunter captain looked around at the sanctuary, at the humans and Lumini working together, at the crystal forest that pulsed with life and purpose. He unclipped his weapon and set it aside. "Teach us," he said simply. Over the next hours, more hunter ships arrived, called by their companions to witness the truth. Each arrival brought new understanding, new possibilities for cooperation. The crystal network hummed with renewed strength as former enemies began working together to heal the damage that had been done. Zara stood with Resonance at the sanctuary's entrance, watching the purple sky where the aurora danced in celebration. The dragon's consciousness brushed against her mind, sharing satisfaction and hope for the future. "We did it," she whispered, running her hand along Resonance's crystalline scales. "Not by fighting, but by showing them another way." The dragon's response flowed through their connection. "This is only the beginning. The network spans galaxies, There are more wonders to discover, more songs to learn, more harmony to create. Zara smiled, feeling the truth of those words in the crystal song that now flowed stronger than ever through the sanctuary. She had started this journey by trying to heal one wounded dragon. Now she was part of something vast and beautiful, a symphony of species working together to protect the delicate balance of life itself. Above them, the crystal forest shimmered with new growth, and in the distance, a hunter ship flew alongside a Lumini dragon, their energies no longer in conflict but in harmony. The universe, Zara realized, was full of wonders waiting to be understood rather than conquered. All you had to do was listen to its song.